Good day, everyone. I am by name Ekoja Okewu Ako from Benue State, Nigeria. I am a trained agriculturist from the Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi. Presently, I'm combining the skills of research, critical thinking, and creative writing to address different challenges confronting the global society. Moving forward, I hope to dive into the world of international economics as a policymaker to democratize opportunities for disadvantaged members of the society. Without further ado, let's dive into my research paper.
The title of the research paper is Deep Dive into Livestock Rustling, the improvised oil well fueling underdevelopment, animal abuse, and terrorism in Nigeria and the Lake Chad Basin. Let's briefly watch a media presentation. Methodology implemented. Qualitative analysis was used for this research. Data was obtained from reputable secondary sources. One key limitation encountered was the lack of qualitative data. This is because many of the illicit financial flows related to rustling take place in rural areas and are often left unreported. Definition of terms. Livestock or cattle rustling is defined as the stealing or planning, organizing, attempting, aiding, or supporting the stealing of livestock by any person from any country or community where the theft is accompanied by dangerous weapons and or violence. It occurs when a group of individuals plan, organize, and steal livestock forcefully from another person, the grazing field, or crowd for the purpose of commercial gain. Illicit financial flows, on the other hand, refers to the illegal movement of money or capital from one country to another for various reasons. Why a research paper on illicit financial flow through livestock rustling is necessary? Between 1980 and 2018, Sub-Saharan Africa lost a staggering $1.3 trillion to IFFs. Another study indicated that cattle rustling is a leading driver of insecurity in the region. FOA's Sub-Regional Office for West Africa estimates an annual loss due to cattle rustling at $432 million in Nigeria between 2016 and 2022. Annual losses of at least $27 million was also recorded in East Africa. An average of 1,600 cattle valued at more than 7 million euros have been rustled within Eswatini. The problem of cattle rustling also affects other West African countries, with Mali experiencing annual losses of $32 million and Senegal experiencing $3.2 million annually. Geography of the study area. The Lake Chad Basin, located in northern Central Africa, covers 8% of the continent and spreads over 7 countries, namely Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Algeria, Central African Republic, and Sudan. The lake is a vast area of fresh water located in the middle of sand dunes, which covers territories in 4 countries, namely Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, and Chad. The lake has been constantly evolving with respect to environmental conditions. Its geological variations have been sparking numerous controversies lately, especially among farmers, anglers and herdsmen who rely on the lake for livelihood. With resources in the form of pasture, fish, and water for irrigation becoming scarce, terrorist groups operating in the region rustle livestock to fund their activities. History of cattle rustling and its evolution. Cattle rustling is an age-old practice which dates back to over many decades. Rangers and Osborne in 2006 stated that over 7,000 years ago, livestock attacks were reported to have taken place. In Nigeria and borders of the Chad Basin, rustling is as old as pastoralism and was a traditional practice among the Fulani pastoralists, whose transhuman lifestyle ensured they moved from place to place as dictated by rainfall and pasture availability. The intention and dynamics of rustling remain traditional, primitively guided and regulated by the sanctity of culture and tradition of the Fulani pastoral communities. Cattle rustling among the Fulani culture allows small herd owners to restock their herds from larger owners. This was a way to demonstrate bravery, perseverance, and prowess. This practice helped in creating healthy competition among members of the Fulani tribe. In modern times, however, the exponential increase in human population has made livestock rustling to become a major crime in the region under study due to the infiltration of criminals, terrorists, and militias. The activities of these criminals have led to the theft of many livestock, death of farmers, and destruction of properties worth millions of dollars. More devastating in our contemporary time is the link between cattle rustling and terrorism. The involvement of Boko Haram terrorists in cattle rustling has been economically motivated to improve their financial strength. For these terrorists to fund their deadly activities, they rely on proceeds gotten from the sale of rustled cattle. It has also become a significant illicit economy that finances armed groups, fueling conflict between farmers and herdsmen. This has contributed immensely to the growing instability and insecurity in the region. Major causes of cattle rustling. One of the causes of cattle rustling is climate change, which refers to the long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. The Lake Chad, which has been sustaining the livelihood of millions, is becoming susceptible to desertification, land degradation, and water recession. This has created fierce competition over the available resources between farmers and pastoralists. With no alternative sources of livelihood, people engage in rustling to make ends meet. Another reason is financial gains. Financial gains from cattle can generate exponential income through illegal sale. This is tempting many to engage in rustling. Due to the availability of an unsatisfied black market for meat and leather, organized rustling networks are motivated to steal livestock indiscriminately for sale to unsuspecting buyers. Social status. Owning a large herd of cattle signifies wealth. This motivates young people to engage in the practice to sustain their social status. Rising livestock prices. With the population of the region increasing, coupled with inflation, the price of livestock is increasing. This has incentivized the menace. Political motives. During political seasons, some corrupt politicians sponsor rustling activities to raise money for campaigns and to discourage the supporters of political rivals. Weak border and security system. With the majority of pastoral activities taking place in rural areas where there are ungoverned spaces and porous borders, rustlers are given safe havens to operate freely. Weak legislations, lax laws, and insufficient punishment for rustling convicts makes many to rustle at will. Another is the proliferation of illegal arms. Although the exact amount of illegal arms in the region is not known, the inflow of arms from Libya through the porous borders of the regions exacerbates the issues. Key perpetrators and supply chain in the livestock rustling. As you can see from the chart on the screen. The first perpetrators are the cattle rustlers, which are involve the armed bandits, the jihadist group, ethnic militias, opportunities criminal network, vigilantes, and then others. Then we have the middlemen. These are the transporters who move the rustled cattle from one place to another. And then the buyers. There are international buyers from bordering communities or bordering countries, and then they buy the proceeds of rustling. Factors that inspired Boko Haram to rustle animals. One was the clampdown of their finance sources by governments around the region. Secondly, we have large concentration of cattle around the Lake Chad Basin. Thirdly, availability of a readily available black market. Overwhelming firepower of the terrorists. Porous borders across the Lake Chad region. And then finally, we have weak security architecture around the region. How animals are abused during rustling. Some are subjected to physical assaults. Rustlers sometimes use sophisticated techniques like anesthesia to drug livestock. Overloading of rustled animals into vehicles with limited carrying capacity. Starvation of animals to conceal crime from authorities. Sometimes animals are abandoned if they are sick. And then we also have forceful subjection of animals or rustled livestock to long kilometer treks. Illicit financial flows and the negative effects of livestock rustling. In 2016, about 200,000 head of cattle were stolen through rustling in Nigeria. Boko Haram accumulation varied from a few $1 million to upwards of $20 million. From 2013 to 2014, about 7,000 cattle were rustled from commercial livestock farms and traditional herders in northern Nigeria. The chart above shows the impact of cattle rustling and violence in Zamfara state between 2011 and 2019. Between that period, 215,241 cattle were stolen, 162,004 other livestock were stolen. About 2.8 billion naira, equivalent to 6.5 million euros, was paid as ransom. 6,319 people were killed, 3,672 people were kidnapped, 3,587 houses were destroyed, 1,487 vehicles were destroyed, 6,483 women were widowed, 25,050 children were orphaned. 37,000 people were killed in the conflict in the Lake Chad Basin. In a 2016 report, Boko Haram in Borno State killed 1,900 Shua Arab pastoralists, destroyed 363 villages before burning down 19,000 houses. This climaxed with the rustling of 160,000 cattle, 67,000 sheep and goats, and the theft of 400,000 sacks of grain. The picture below, beside here, shows the bodies of innocent Nigeria gruesomely murdered by Boko Haram terrorists. In Niger Republic, 2,735 cattle were stolen while terrorists abducted 91 people. The families of the hostages had to pay a ransom of over 77,500 euros to secure their release. According to OCHA, about 3.6 million people in the region are food insecure, with 2.89 million of them from Nigeria. Over 25,000 Nigerians, these are the people from Niger, have been displaced, while figures for Nigeria reveals that 81,000 Nigerians fleeing from rustlers in Zamfara state, Sokoto and Katsina states also joined in seeking refuge in Niger Republic. Who has the power to address the menace? We have the national government, the buyers, the butchers and the meat industries, common people, international and non-governmental organizations, religious and traditional rulers, our leaders, and then security agencies. Recommendations for reform. Public awareness campaign need to be enforced. With rustling being a traditional means of displaying prowess being eroded by the recent infiltration of terrorists and armed groups, engaging traditional leaders to discourage the practice is an effective way to address the menace from its roots. Establishment of grazing reserves. Due to the lack of grazing pastures around the Lake Chad region during the dry season, herders move to isolated regions where they are exposed to rustlers. The establishment of grazing reserves will provide controlled environment, excellent pasture, facilitate security of livestock, provide social amenities, and enable the marketing of genuine livestock. Livestock census and electronic identification. Recently, the Nigerian government established a national animal identification traceability system meant to prevent cattle rustling. Governments of countries around the region need to follow suit to tag all livestock to prevent rustling. With the proliferation of arms and light weapons in the region escalating crime, amnesty programs will help in the recovery of these arms. Security reinforcement. With many rustling activities taking place in rural areas, security forces need to work with local security to develop early warning signals. Strengthening border control. With the border in the region porous and available human resources stretched beyond elastic limits, more border control officers should be recruited, trained, and equipped to safeguard our regions against rustlers. Legal reforms. Livestock rustling is considered a theft under the Nigerian law and is punishable by imprisonment and fines. Stiffer punishments that will serve as deterrent to others needs to be implemented. Leveraging technology. Instead of relying on the obsolete technologies available, countries in the region should invest in innovative technology to frustrate the activities of rustlers. Partnership with transport unions. With the transporters playing a vital role in the rustling network. Partnership with them will fish out bad eggs that are aiding rustling. Increasing formal employment opportunities. With over 54% of the population along the Niger-Nigeria border lacking decent jobs, the provision of juicy employment opportunities will prevent them from being wooed into rustling. Research. Instead of wasting research grants on non-essentials, our institutions of learning should shift their focus to rustling researches that will safeguard the research and livestock industry. Conclusion. Livestock contributes up to 44% of agricultural GDP annually in some West African states. The activities of criminal networks have been limiting the capacity of these communities to actualize the sustainable development goals. Affected countries around the Lake Chad Basin should therefore note that only with a combination of the recommendations raised in this paper can they rally hope to curb the menace of rustling, encourage development, and limit illicit financial flows across the region. Thank you very much for your time.